So guys, I got a question about this, not only through an email, but in person. It was about Polybius. And I guess the reason why I was asked is I'm like quasi connected to the vending machine business. And they were kind of asking if they thought that this conspiracy was true. I will give it a 50-50 and I'll explain why. So the story goes that in 1981, the government made an arcade game. They stuck it in an arcade to do mind control experiments on the people playing it, and they would come in and collect data on it. They would come into this arcade, they would basically open the machine, they wouldn't count any money, they wouldn't split any money, they would basically write down or take notes, lock the machine up and leave, and that was it. And that's the story. And people or kids that played this game would have nightmares, they would get sick, they would become ill, they would have seizures, they never wanted to play the game again. There was all sorts of things that were happening. Now that's a very basic synopsis of the story. The reason why I don't think that would fly is I am thinking of how we ran our business back in the 70s and the 80s and so on. My family had arcades and vending routes, but we were on the East Coast. So we basically operated in New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. Those are the three states that we bounced in and out of every day. We still do. Back in the 1980s, especially 81, that was kind of like the height of the arcade business or the video game business, whatever you want to call it. You would open the machine and quarters would fall out. You couldn't count them fast enough. Now, the only way I can see this happening is if the government started a vending machine company. Now, this is the United States government. The government is a machine. It has unlimited resources. It has unlimited money. It doesn't stop. It can't be stopped. I can see, the government doing CIA amusements, and I can see them buying a bunch of games. So they would have their Polybius game, which they're looking to run mind control experiments on people. And I would think that they would also have like a Donkey Kong and a Miss Pac-Man. And I can see them going into local stores like a pizzeria or a candy store or a grocery store and putting in, a Polybius next to a Miss Pac-Man. When I used to go into the store owner wasn't looking over your shoulder. They didn't know what you were doing. You would collect the money. There would be a test screen on a lot of these games where you kind of could see what was happening. It was almost where you could hit a test screen. You could see how many plays were on the machine, and you could test like the buttons and the joysticks and the sounds and stuff like that. The store owner wouldn't know what I was doing. They wouldn't care anyway. So if a Polybius was like in a candy store in Oregon, and these guys came in and they were, taking data, or they were looking on the screen to see, what type of mind control stuff was going on, the store owner wouldn't know what that was anyway. He would just think it's part of the game. And that's possible. Now, the kids may have seen a test screen and thought it was something. And now that they're thinking about it, 30 years later, they're saying it was government or Polybius or something like that. Maybe. Now, you've never seen a picture of this game. There's never been a ROM dump of this game. You've never had any owners of like a candy store or a pizza store or somebody that said, I remember this game. I had this game in the back of my, candy store, or it was in my grocery store. It was never in any sort of catalog or flyer. And I guess if it's the government, they wouldn't advertise it like that. But nobody really remembers it. You have a couple of people that claim they played it, but there's too many things that, kind of contradict what those few people say. And this is 1981, and you're talking to kids. And, who got sick playing Asteroids and who fainted playing, Galaga and all that type of stuff. And that could be confused, or in your head you're thinking that had something to do with Polybius. But I don't think it's true. Also, when you have your games and someone's establishment, you have to split the money with them. So I have my game in a candy store. Every week I go to the store and I open the game up, I count the money, and I split it with the owner of the store. You know, there's $100 in my Miss Pac-Man machine. $50 goes to me, $50 goes to the owner of the store. And every time I read about Polybius, it's always the same thing. Somebody came in, they opened the machine up, they just took data down, and then they didn't even collect the money, and they closed the store and left. So that's something else that, you know, wouldn't happen, especially in 1981, where there was a lot of money being made. You know, an owner of the store would kind of say, you know, where's my half of the money? Could the government have done it? Yes. Is the government capable of making a game, like a mind control game, and putting it out in an arcade or in a store, like I mentioned, like a route or something in 1981? Definitely. Like I said, they have unlimited money. They definitely could have did that. But I just don't see it. Now, if you have anything to add, or you think that this is true or there's proof, definitely write it in the comments and definitely tell me why. I love all this stuff. I'm into stuff like this. I mean, it's interesting, especially when it's about things like, you know, video games, which is doubly interesting. But I just don't see this Polybius thing happening. But again, if it did happen, they did it in Oregon, which is, I don't know how populated that state was in 1981 or what was really going on. So they kind of picked something that was very, you know, where it might have not gained a lot of attention, where they can kind of just see what was happening. It wasn't happening like in New York City or Times Square, where I guess there was a lot of, you know, could have been taking a picture of, or people might have questioned it, or people might have said, you know, who's this, trying to stick a, you know, a game in our location, something like that. So I guess if the government did it, they kind of knew what they were doing. That's why it is like you could say, yeah, maybe it did happen, you know, it kind of fits. I just don't think it did. But I would love to find people that think that they did, you know, and they have some sort of proof. I've watched other videos on YouTube about this, and, you know, it's fascinating. I just like things like that. So to me, that's fascinating when you watch stuff like that, right? But that's really it. So, as always, like and subscribe. I hope everybody's doing well. Hope everybody's doing good. Hope you're making money. Hope you're being healthy. Hope God is blessing you and all that good stuff. And, you know, have a great day. And get right, if you have any information or you know anything, or you know, want to add something to the conversation, please do. For some reason, you guys like to private message me about stuff. And that's great. I don't know what to say. So either private message me or leave a comment, and I'll respond the best I can. All right? Hope all is well, and have a great day. Bye-bye.